It was the beginning of 5 days of terror.
I have a victim here with shrapnel in the leg.
Over the next 102 hours, police and federal agents
Shots fired again, shots fired again.
would overcome chaos, emotion, exhaustion, and miscues to track down those responsible as a grateful city and nation applauded.
I'm a marathoner, so I had planned to run that day. I ran the race. It was a beautiful day for running.
Have a great race, everybody.
We did a lot of planning for that race. We had a lot of security.
It was the 117th Boston Marathon, run every year on what's called Patriots' Day. Schools are out, offices closed, the bars are open. It's the best day of the year in Boston. A day-long party, as this fateful surveillance video shows, taken from one of the restaurants along the race route, the Forum. There were no known threats of an attack that day, and nothing seemed suspicious about the two men wearing backpacks who made their way through the crowds. All eyes were on the runners.
I remember coming down Boylston Street. My wife and young son were in the stands cheering me on, and it was just a great race.
After he finished, Boston Police Superintendent Billy Evans headed to the Boston Athletic Club.
Hopped into a hot tub, which it always feels good after the race, and Police Officer Cecil Jones came in and said to me, "Superintendent, I think 2 bombs just went off in Copley Square."
The first bomb was near the finish line.
Are you okay?
And right away, saying to Cecil, "That can't happen here."
Multiple people down here, okay? I don't know what the cause is. Stand by.
And I said, it can't be bombs. It's got to be transformers. Stuff like that doesn't happen here in Boston.
Many in the crowd at the Forum restaurant had the same initial reaction, including Bill Richard, there with his wife and 3 children.
What the hell was that?
Heads turned at the sound of the first blast, about 200 yards away.
Oh my God! Something blew up! Something blew up! Oh my God, something happened!
Over the next 12 seconds, some will decide to leave the Forum area, but most will stay, including the Richard family, unaware the second bomb is planted in a backpack at their feet.
I have a victim here with shrapnel in the leg.
What should have been joy turned into panic and heart-wrenching fear of the worst.
Among the 3 killed, 8-year-old Martin Richard.
Saw quite a few casualties coming back. I saw one guy with his legs gone at the knees, some ankles and feet missing.
I saw the flash, the fire, the smoke, and I just ran as fast as I could.
I seen the fear in people's face. I seen people crying. I seen people leaving that scene very much terrorized. I could see it in their face. Our worst fears came true here in the city of Boston. I was like, oh my God, we got to get who's responsible for this.
I want all the SWAT team to go back to the base right now and get their rifles, get their gear.
What was the early estimation of who was responsible?
Initially, one individual was seen fleeing from the scene, whose clothes looked charred, and at first we seemed to focus on him.
But he was an innocent bystander.
We didn't know what we faced. We didn't know how many bombers we had out there, so we didn't know what we had. We feared there could be 2, 3, 4, 5 more devices out there.
Just 23 minutes after the bombs went off, the 2 bombers, brothers Tamerlan and Johar Tsarnaev, pulled into the parking lot at the Whole Foods store in Cambridge to carry out an errand. The younger brother, 19-year-old Johar, strolls into the store and heads to the dairy section. He can't decide whether he's supposed to get whole milk, 2%, or skim.
There's not an ounce, not an iota of a sense of concern or fidgeting on his behalf. I mean, you would think somebody that's involved in something so crazy, so depraved, there'd be this overwhelming amount of adrenaline, and he is calm and cool and collected. He calmly interacts with the store staff.
Outside, the older brother, Tamerlan, is on the phone with a friend, who later told the FBI he asked Tsarnaev about the breaking news of the bombing. Could it have been an accident? Maybe, maybe not, Tamerlan responds. Johar leaves the store, but with the wrong milk. He's sent back inside to exchange it for the right kind. And then they head home with the milk and their dark secret.
Guys, no way,
In contrast to the calm of the brothers at the Whole Food store, there was chaos and confusion at the crime scene.
We're looking for every bit of evidence we could. It was a puzzle at that point, and we had to slowly, piece by piece, put it together.
The most important piece of the puzzle came from what's called the CART Lab at the FBI Boston headquarters, where more than 10,000 videos and photos were analyzed.
We were told that the forum had a camera, which actually filmed from the front door out towards the street, and we needed to get that digital video recorder as soon as we could. This is the video here that was recovered off of the digital video recorder from the forum.
And this was the starting point then for your video investigation?
This was the starting point, yes.
And when you looked at it, you were looking for what?
At that point, we didn't know. We knew that the explosion happened in the vicinity or somewhere in the camera shot, but we didn't know who we were looking for at that point.
Somewhere in these frames was the bomber, but the agents could not spot him. He was hiding in plain sight, one of the 147 individuals seen in the frames.
So when you first looked at it,
yes,
you couldn't see anything that stuck out?
We couldn't see anything that stuck out.
Back and forth, play, rewind, slow down, zoom in, play, rewind again.
There's so much going on.
There was a lot going on.
That must have been frustrating.
It was very frustrating because we watched it over and over and over again.
This was the bomber they were looking for, the younger Tsarnaev brother. But on that first day and into the night, the FBI agents scrutinizing this video could not spot him.
There was nothing distinct that stood out. As you can see the video here yourself, that there wasn't anything that jumped out at us off the screen that said, this is the subject, this is the person that put the bomb there.
You had this video,
yes,
but you didn't have a suspect.
We did not have a suspect.
That night, the two bombers went out for dinner with a friend at this restaurant. Johar will later send this Twitter message: "Ain't no love in the heart of the city. Stay safe, people." Tamerlan tells the friend, "So what if a kid dies? God will take care of him."
We still do not know who did this or why, and people shouldn't jump to conclusions before we have all the facts. But make no mistake, we will get to the bottom of this, and we will find out who did this. We'll find out why they did this.
It was an emotional week for me. 5 days of sort of hell.
Every second that's going by, we're asking, who did this? Every minute that was going by, we're asking ourselves, well, where are they now? And then every hour that's going by, we're asking, well, what are they going to do next?
The first explosion happened. About 10 or 15 seconds later, there was a second explosion.
Another ambulance down here at 755 Boylston.
I can't begin to know.
It's a nice moment here at the stadium as we stand united with the people of Boston.
It was a feel-good moment at Yankee Stadium as New Yorkers showed their support by singing the theme song of their hated rivals, the Boston Red Sox. But no one was feeling very good as the day started at Boston FBI headquarters, in the CART Lab, where agents had spent the night searching the chilling video for images of the terrorist.
He was hidden in plain sight. We couldn't see anything that stuck out.
You're tearing your hair out?
Yes, that would be one good way of describing it, yes, but just frustration.
I talked to one of the agents who reviewed the tape, and he said, "You have no idea how many times I had to view the tape to get past the horror, to see who it would be. That took a long time because you were just gripped by that."
This is the man they were looking for but could not spot.
It was very frustrating because we watched it over and over and over again.
Any information that you have, any videos or photographs, could be helpful to this investigation.
The clues they're looking for now is, did somebody see a person put a bomb in a trash can, a mailbox, leave us a sack on the sidewalk? Somebody saw something, and that's what they're looking for right now. That's the most important clue that they could have.
Tuesday, we get a call from the public, from a person who said, I was across the street taking pictures of my friend running, and the pictures were taken just immediately before the explosion, and we think that you might be interested in my photos. And we said, absolutely. That still photo, combined with the video, put the pieces of the puzzle together.
FBI bomb technicians had determined where the bomb had detonated, and in that precise spot, they could now see a black backpack.
Right there.
That's the first time you saw that?
That's the first time we saw that bag. We said, that's got to be the bomb. And then we start to look around that location, around the bag, of who could have been responsible or who that bag belonged to.
Was it the man in the white hat?
That might be our guy. And we went back to the video and synced them both up together. That was the aha moment. And we grabbed the executive management from the command post and brought him in and said, this is who we're looking for.
Now it seems so obvious.
You see him walking in about 4.5 minutes beforehand. You see him with a backpack. You see him on a phone. You see him get to that point and just gently lead to the side and put the backpack on the ground. And then you fast forward to the moments just before the first blast, and you see everybody react. Well, his reaction was slightly different. It wasn't as panicked. You could tell that he knew that that was about to happen. And then you start to count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, and he starts to walk out back from the direction he came. 3 1,000, 4 1,000, and you get to 12, and just as he exits the frame, that second blast happens.
But there were 2 bombs and 2 bombers, and at this point, the FBI only had 1 bomber identified, the one with the white baseball cap on backwards.
Could he have set off both, you think?
At that point, we didn't know.
So now the FBI team set out to backtrack the bomber in the white hat. Agents later created a mock-up model of the crime scene.
This is an actual 3D model of the Boylston Street scene.
Marking in yellow all the surveillance cameras they knew were set up along Boylston Street.
And these yellow dots are all cameras?
CCTV cameras. So then we started looking backwards, and we play the tape backwards to make sure we see where he comes from.
Going backwards, picked up first by the cameras at Walgreens.
And we can see him coming from here.
Then by the ATM camera at Bank of America, in front of the Back Bay Social Club.
The next key piece of CCTV footage we get is here at Whiskey's restaurant,
where Whitehead is seen with another man wearing a black hat.
And it's actually at Whiskey's where we first see them together.
And so when you saw them here, then you knew that was the second person?
Absolutely. That's where we have now black hat and white hat. That's essentially our second aha moment. Now we're looking for 2 bombers.
Yet it turns out this key video came within minutes of being erased. The system at Whiskey's records over the previous day's images every 24 hours.
On the day of the bombing, cameras are rolling. Huh?
Cameras are always rolling.
The Whiskey's manager put in an urgent call to Boston police.
You need to get here right away because I don't know that it's going to not recycle on top of each other.
Detectives raced to the restaurant and got here just in time to unplug the system and preserve this key video. Now, more than 3,000 federal agents and police were in the hunt. The FBI was conducting aerial surveillance on more than a dozen possible suspects in the Boston area.
We were desperate. I mean, we were absolutely desperate to figure out who these guys were.
The manifest of every international flight were scrubbed.
We had no solid indication to say they were still in the area or even in the country or wherever.
Then late on Tuesday, the photos of Black Hat and White Hat were run through the FBI's brand new billion-dollar facial recognition software.
It didn't get us anywhere, unfortunately.
Manufacturers were boasting that the software could be used to match suspects under surveillance with official photos. That did not happen in Boston.
Facial recognition software at that time was good to compare driver's license and passport photos to other driver's license and passport photos. It didn't help with the photos and the videos that we had.
We do not know whether this is the act of an organization or an individual or individuals. As the FBI has more information, as our counterterrorism teams have more information, we will make sure to keep you and the American people posted.
There was pressure from Washington, D.C. The president's being briefed. FBI headquarters were working with them, hourly, and there's this constant check: where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? These people weren't killed in the blast. Where are they going to be next?
That was the concern.
That was the concern. What's next? Where are they?
The first explosion happened. About 10 or 15 seconds later, there was a second explosion.
Another ambulance down here at 755 Boylston.
Good morning, America. Major developments in the Boston bombings.
Police are looking for any clue that can help them solve who was behind the blast.
You could see everyone in the white suits on their hands and knees collecting the physical evidence. They were up on rooftops. They would just swarm in the area, meticulously collecting every piece of evidence. Shreds, banners, anything that could try to put this bomb and these devices back together.
The FBI actually used a satellite overhead to record precise GPS coordinates where each shred of evidence was recovered in the 24 square block crime scene.
We can pick up all the pieces of a bomb, put it back together, then start to track those components, who purchased them and where did they purchase them, and on top of that, try and get forensics off of them, hairs, fibers, fingerprints, DNA, and then really start to trace it back to the bomber. There was so much blood. There was so much devastation to human tissue and everything.
The FBI set up a giant warehouse to store and catalog each piece of physical evidence.
We actually have pieces of the backpack that were found there.
This is from the actual backpack?
The actual backpack.
The zipper is still there?
We also have bits of shrapnel from this. You can see the BBs, ball bearings, and you can see the epoxy with which they were glued together. Again, the tremendous damage they do to human flesh and human tissue.
The damage done by the BBs can be seen in the x-rays of the victims. The BBs are the little white dots.
They cut right through.
Absolutely.
More than 160 cell phones recovered from the crime scene.
They're all marked with biohazard tape. That's because most of them were found with blood on them. We had to look at every single one of these phones because at the time, initially, we didn't know if these bombs were time fused, if they were mechanically operated, or, in the case of the cell phones, could they have been cell phone detonated?
But the most important physical evidence found in the first 3 days were pieces of the pressure cookers turned into bombs.
So this was the top of the pressure cooker?
That was the top of the pressure cooker device.
From the first bomb that went off?
Exactly.
It blew sky high in the first explosion and was discovered on the roof of a nearby hotel. Even more important was the bottom of the pressure cooker.
Part of the reason why it was so important was because it had the manufacturer's name and a serial number on it. So we literally created an investigative cell right off the bat to learn everything we could about that pressure cooker or pressure cookers of that type. Who manufactures them? Where are they manufactured? How are they distributed? Where are they sold?
The FBI team tracked the pressure cooker to a Macy's store in Boston, where one person had bought 5 of them in the months before the bombing. The pressure cooker provided another clue. Al-Qaeda had produced elaborate instructions online about how to build pressure cooker bombs.
It could end up being someone else, but right now it has all the indicators in every aspect of being a Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda affiliated attack.
This is a very similar device to the IEDs that we have found throughout Afghanistan used to kill our soldiers.
But while the FBI kept quiet about the evidence it was gathering, speculation and conspiracy theories took hold.
There was all kinds of misinformation flying around Boston. It was absolute chaos because for days we had been hearing rumors about a man with a baseball cap or a Middle Eastern man with a backpack, and police were just awash with rumors and stories.
Internet sleuths spotted a figure on a rooftop just as the bombs went off.
I want to ask you about a photo that everybody was emailing today. It is a man standing up on top of a roof. You see it right there. What do you know about it?
Well, it's very intriguing, but authorities here say they're giving it no special priority. It's one of many tips and leads they're following.
The New York Post published this photo of two young men who had been the subject of a law enforcement inquiry. The editors unaware that the FBI had already determined they were not involved.
As soon as it came out, we knew it was wrong. We knew what we had in that command post.
And then Wednesday afternoon, rumors of an arrest turned into real news stories, completely false.
One of our sources is from our national security contributor, Fran Townsend. One of sources is a Boston law enforcement source who tells me that an arrest has been made.
All of a sudden, I started getting calls and people telling me they got the suspects, they got the suspects. And it was absolutely false.
But it took off on social media.
Absolute positive wildfire. People were confirming it all over the place.
My mother called me. She said, "Oh, congratulations, you caught him." I'm like, no.
Your mother actually called?
Yeah, she called. Like, and my mother, she doesn't call me during the day. She knows I'm busy, but she called me. I'm like, oh, no. No, we didn't catch anyone.
But officers and agents in the field, searching for the bombers, started to wonder if they could now stand down.
I went into our operations center, got on the radio, and cleared all the channels and said that rumors of the suspects being caught are not true. Everybody continue to do what you're doing. Be careful, but the two suspects are back out there.
By the evening, the sobering truth of the matter was clear. The two actual bombers were still at large, able to attack again.
Do they think that they've gotten away with it? Do they say, geez, they don't know who I am? We have times on our side.
The older Tsarnaev, Tamerlan, was at his home in this Cambridge apartment building, where he lived with his wife, Catherine, and an infant daughter. An accomplished boxer, no one at his gym had any idea of what he had done. The younger Tsarnaev, Johar, went back to school at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. Surveillance video shows him at the school gym the day after the bombing.
He's back at college.
Living his life, absolutely. Going to the gym, hanging out with friends.
And friends would later say he showed up to several parties that week, where he was known as a low-level marijuana dealer.
As we were trying to figure out who these guys were, where they were, we were in this frantic effort. We knew what they just had done. They were out there. They could be planning to do something else. We've got to stop these guys.
But not before there would be more bloodshed and death.
All units, respond. Officer down. Officer down. All units. Officer down. We need assistance immediately. Let's report a shots fired at officer. Shots fired at Watertown police officers.
My pistol ran out of ammo. I had to reload. He was still shooting. I reloaded. It turned out I emptied my pistol out of him.
There's explosions and gunfire going on down the street.
These eyes, possible dynamite type explosives, and they're throwing it at the officers that are responding.
I thought we were going to die. I mean, I truly thought that we were going to die.
The first explosion happened. About 10 or 15 seconds later, there was a second explosion.
Investigators hoping to close in on a suspect this morning. ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross leads our coverage from Boston. Good morning, Brian.
Well, good morning, George. There's a growing sense of confidence here this morning based on the FBI's discovery of a clip of video that appears to catch the moment when a man placed a bag with one of the bombs.
But those video images had not yet been made public, and the FBI spent Thursday debating whether making them public would cause the terrorist to strike again.
We knew it with eyes wide open that if we release those photos, we're basically telling them, heads up guys, we've got your photos, we're coming for you.
FBI technicians spotted the bomber in the white hat using a cell phone just before the explosions. If the two bombers could be quietly identified through cell phone tower records, maybe they could be captured before they struck again.
The element of surprise is a huge factor for law enforcement when making arrests.
Now we do have this exclusive development.
But then the FBI says its hand was forced when a Boston TV station obtained one of the photos.
Fox 25 has now obtained a photo of one of the suspects, and we're going to take a look at it right there. You can see it on your screen, the man with the white baseball cap.
Did you ask that news organization to hold off?
Yes, yes.
And what did they say?
Yes. They said, we'll give you a little time.
And so you had no choice but to go
No,
public?
we had no choice.
The FBI agreed to give the TV station a 1-hour exclusive.
Good afternoon.
Before the head of the FBI Boston office, Rick DeLaurier, released the photos, to the dismay of many of the field agents.
That went all the way down to Washington, D.C. That was FBI headquarters, Department of Justice, Eric Holder.
To the Attorney General?
Yes.
Today we are enlisting the public's help to identify the two suspects. The photos and videos are posted for the public and media to use, review, and publicize.
The photos went around the world in minutes, and agents manned the phones to handle the expected deluge of tips from the public.
We told everybody, strap in, this is going to be a long night. Hopefully we're going to get that call, that tip, and then we waited. But unfortunately, that one call that we were hoping to get, that didn't happen.
Not a single call that night from any of those who knew the Tsarnaevs, from school, from the neighborhood, from the gym. Radio silence until this.
Oh my goodness. Area, all units respond. Data. Officer down. Officer down. All units.
We hear a radio call that there's an officer down, and it turns out it's Officer Sean Collier at MIT.
The two Tsarnaev brothers, seen in this MIT surveillance video, had approached Officer Collier's parked squad car.
They assassinated Officer Collier in hopes of getting his gun.
After failing to get his gun, they run away.
And then it got worse.
911 recorded line.
We started hearing about a call for a carjacking.
The brothers carjacked this black Mercedes SUV, forcing its owner to ride along.
They stole money from him. They took out money from his ATM. They even stopped to get gas and get snacks for what presumably was going to be their drive after that.
Their plan was to head to New York and set off more bombs in Times Square. But the carjacked Mercedes owner escapes, dashing to another gas station across the street, cowering in fear that they will follow him.
911.
Please help me, please. They have guns.
Where are they?
They are in the Shell gas station in Memorial Drive.
They were in front of the gas station?
Yeah, I just wrong. I just got it wrong. They say that they are they did the explosion, marathon explosion. They are Muslims.
The older Tsarnaev runs into the store to tell his brother what has happened. We gotta go. Johar drops his packs of Red Bull and Doritos, and they race away.
They started pinging that car, and they were able to see where it was located.
We got a call from Cambridge PD. They just pinged the phone numbers in the vehicle in question on the carjacking. It's in the area 61 Dexter Ave, the 2013 Mercedes. Okay, now the vehicle's moving now, units. Okay, they're pinging the vehicle. It's 89 Dexter Ave. It's the vehicle that's being pinged.
Watertown police units moved in towards Dexter.
We're getting an update. There may be guns in the vehicle.
You say this was the street.
Sergeant John McClellan closes in with another Watertown officer, Joey Reynolds, just ahead of him.
I come around the corner and the bad guy's out, arms fully stretched out.
Reported shots fired at officers trying to stop the vehicle.
Shooting at the windshield of Officer Reynolds' cruiser.
Shots fired at Watertown police officers.
The bad guy switches from Joey to me and takes one shot and puts it right through the middle of my windshield from about 120 feet away.
We need assistance immediately. Shots fired again. Shots fired again. We have 3 units responding.
So I stood here. I said, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I jumped up, threw it in drive, and I just jumped down right here, and I was following it. The
car's moving.
Car's moving, and I'm following it like this and just shooting right in between here using the door as cover. So I probably took 12, 15 steps with the vehicle and saw the tree. I shut the door. I ran to the tree, and they think someone's in it the whole time. So you can see them shooting at it. You can see them throwing the bombs at it. And I'm like, I was like, geez, this is working. I'm like, I can't believe it.
Agency's eyes We get a report from the patrol supervisor that these suspects has powerful dynamite type explosives with them, and they're calling it up the officers that are responding.
Now a third Watertown officer, Sergeant Jeff Pugliese, responds.
And I fired 3 or 4 shots. I was positive I was hitting him, but he wasn't going down.
In more than 3 decades on the force, neither man had ever fired his weapon in action until this night.
Who did you hit?
Tamerlan.
Tamerlan. Did he keep shooting?
He came charging up the street, shooting at me. So we're about 6 feet apart when he ran up that driveway.
You're shooting each other?
Yes.
6, 7 feet apart?
Yeah. I emptied my pistol at him, and in the meantime, his pistol ran out of ammunition. I didn't know if it jammed at the time or what. And he kind of looked at his gun, looked at me, got frustrated, threw the gun, hit me in my left bicep. And he turned, he ran down back onto the street, took a left, I chased after him, and I probably left about 4 or 5 feet in the air and came down on the shoulders and tackled him.
We had 8 bullets in him, and he was still fighting us. The only I had was my empty gun, and I pistol whipped him. I was trying to knock him out. I hit him as hard as I could, 10, 12 times. Couldn't knock him out.
The younger Tsarnaev, now back in the Mercedes, runs over his brother, just missing Pugliese.
And I'm laying there, and I saw the front wheels go over Tamerlan. I saw him bounce up and underneath the undercarriage a couple of times. I saw him get hung up in the rear wheels and get dragged 20, 25 feet.
All officers responded. We have one body pinned down, and we have another one on the run, shots fired.
And all we saw was taillights at that point.
Police fired as he fled. They missed him, but a ricochet wounded a transit police officer who had responded to the scene.
Once other agencies started showing up, they said to us, "Do you know who you have here?" And we said, "A couple of guys that carjacked a car."
And he goes, no, do you know who you got? These are the Boston Marathon bombers. And I'm like, what? I'm like, how do you know that? He's like, we've been chasing them all night. These are them. These are the guys. I'm like.
So is this black hat or is this white hat? Who's the dead guy? I mean, is this bigger than these 2 people? Is this a cell? What do we have here?
We're asking people to shelter in place, in other words, to stay indoors with their doors locked and not to open the door for anyone other than a properly identified law enforcement officer, and that applies here in Watertown, where we are right now, and at this point, all of Boston. All of Boston.
Everybody off this street right now, let's go!
You know, we have to treat this like it's a snow day without any snow. All of the area became really a ghost town.
We were going to house after house, clearing them. People were afraid in Watertown. You know, they would see a back door open that they didn't think was open before. We'd go into that house and clear it. People were hearing footsteps in their homes. People were running scared.
Scared because of the shootout overnight.
We have one body pinned down.
Left one bomber dead.
And we have another one on the run.
Another on the run.
We believe this to be a terrorist. We believe this to be a man who's come here to kill people. We need to get him in custody.
The first explosion happened. About 10 or 15 seconds later, there was a second explosion.
We spent about 10-15 minutes trying to resuscitate this patient. At 1:35 in the morning, he was pronounced.
Who's the dead guy? We got to roll the prints of the dead guy. I said, you know, find Jeff.
I got an email saying, get the quick capture system ready and meet everybody at the hospital. I actually brought it up to his hand and put his hand on there. And there was an instantaneous hit.
And what came back?
the identification of Tamerlan Tsarnaev.
That's the first time we, standing in the middle of that crime scene, know who they are. Yeah, we know who the dead guy is, and the fugitive is his brother.
He is dressed in a gray hoodie-type sweatshirt. He's a light-skinned or Caucasian male with longer brown curly hair. You've seen the picture. You all have it. That's the individual that we're looking for at this moment.
And then police got reports from Boston's South Station of a possible pipe bomb and 2 more suspected terrorists.
The decision was made to put the city in lockdown till we figure out what happened.
As the day unfolded, we realized that these 2 individuals had nothing to do with this, that the pipe bomb was not a pipe bomb, and that kind of was foreboding for the rest of the day. One dead end after another.
At one point, the FBI thought it had tracked the younger brother's phone to a location near his college in Massachusetts.
I was on the phone with FBI headquarters, and Director Mueller was on the line. And I said, we don't have the search warrant ready. And I remember him saying to me, he says, well, if you're ready, then you go on my word. And I'm like, okay, roger that, sir. I'm not sure that's ever happened before.
The director of the FBI authorizing a raid without a legal warrant.
That was quite historic, I felt, too, and the right thing to do. When that came up dry, that was yet another, oh my God, moment.
So 6 hours of search and nothing, and about 6 more hours until it begins to get dark again, which gives advantage to suspect number 2.
I lost a lot of people who just kind of really passed out. Some people in the hospital.
From exhaustion?
From exhaustion, absolutely. They were hospitalized from exhaustion. I was a mess. I was done.
As the day was about to end, there was no sign of the fugitive terrorist anywhere in the cordoned-off area. The entire city of Boston still on lockdown.
It became a point of, can we sustain this shelter-in-place order for this major metropolitan area?
In light of the status of the investigation here in Watertown and the developments in the course of the day, the stay indoors request is lifted.
The order to stay indoors has been lifted for the residents there, but they are told to be watchful because the search continues for a dangerous suspect, a long day becoming a long night.
At 6, when the governor lifted the ban, honestly, we didn't know he lifted the ban. All of a sudden, people started coming out of their homes, and we're like, hey, what are you doing?
Evans and his officers were about to head home until this.
911, Spanish recorder. What's the address of your emergency? 67 Franklin, Watertown.
The home of 66-year-old David Henneberry.
I have a boat in my yard. There's blood all over the inside. There's a person in the boat. Are you sure? I just looked in the boat. 468, Sunny Bank.
Sir, I have a call from 67 Franklin Street, 67 Franklin. There's a boat in the backyard. There's blood all over the cover of it, and the RP reports there's a person inside the boat.
Hello? Yeah. Can you look at the boat without making yourself noticeable? I can look at it right now. Okay. I'm outside. Go back inside. I can hear the... Don't put yourself in harm's way. Stay away from the boat. I'm not going near the boat. I'm absolutely not going near the boat.
And we were literally the first ones on that boat. I mean, I went on the air and said, we're already here.
What's the plan? Clear the air. I'm in the rear of the yard. I got eyes on the boat. We got to get on. Somebody's poking holes in the roof of the boat.
My worry was, it looked like he was poking with a gun.
Water tank control.
There's someone inside. What's the call going to be?
Wait for SWAT. Wait for SWAT. They're en route there.
Tell them to put a rush on it.
And then everybody was descending on 67 Franklin Street.
On their own, hundreds of agents and police responded to the scene, guns drawn.
And that's when the shot rang out. And I'm like, oh my God.
Shots fired, we have that.
More than 250 shots into the boat itself and dozens more into surrounding homes. This one missed a child's bed. Other rounds smashed into walls, vases, furniture in the homes of neighbors.
Hold fire, hold fire.
You know, I knew we had to stop that firing right away, and right away I'm yelling on my radio and I'm yelling to my guys, and they yell,
hold fire,
hold your fire, hold your fire.
Hold fire, hold fire.
Number one, I didn't want him killed because we didn't know how big a cell and what information we had to gather. And number two, I knew I had policemen all around that boat.
I want all Watertown officers to pull back away from the house, now.
All Watertown officers, stay away, pull back from the house immediately. That's all Watertown officers, pull back away from the house immediately.
Only later did police learn that the man in the boat did not have a gun.
Who fired that first shot?
We still don't know. I can honestly say none of the Boston guys ever fired. I had good control over my guys at the scene.
Evans and his officers surrounded the boat as a robot was set in to rip the canvas tarp off the top.
If they're able to successfully rip that off, he'll be fully exposed, okay?
We threw flashbangs into the boat, smoke grenades, and then eventually they negotiated.
We have movement in the boat. He just sat up. He's moving, flailing about, quite a bit of movement.
They were able to talk him, to get him to sit up on the boat.
The suspect in custody.
And then he was taken into custody, and 100%, that's our guy.
The younger Tsarnaev was badly injured, but survived. As medics treated him, he asked what happened to his brother. They told him, "You will find out soon enough."
Job well done.
It was the best feeling I've ever had to be out there and to actually see people clapping for police was, you know, something that I've never seen.
102 hours later, from the moment those explosions happened to his capture, that was the longest 102-hour day of our lives, I think.
Whether it was from the bombings to the first responders, the EMS, citizens, to just examples throughout those 5 days of the heroic efforts of everyone involved.
So I was proud to be a member of this department. I was proud to be an American. I was proud that we got the two people responsible for this bombing.